Welcome to That's Logistics, Baby.
So the first one we have here is another crazy story by a driver. It says, many years ago, I was on what is called a meet and turn. This is where a driver that is domiciled out of one city will drive to a load halfway to its destination, while a driver domiciled out of that destination will drive halfway with a load that is destined for my city. Which, I didn't know they did that, or that was a thing.
I mean,
like a halfway mark, like, I guess.
I think there's just different, like, what's it
Operation.
called? Yeah, like terms that it's used.
Yeah, interesting.
Basically.
They say we meet at a parking lot, switch trailers, drive back home. I had been on this run for a few months and found that I always got to the meet point about an hour before the other driver. It was a dark and empty dirt lot at about 3 a.m., so I would stretch out across the street and take a short nap. One night, about 10 minutes into my nap, I was awoken by a barking dog. I tried to ignore it, but it carried on for several minutes and got louder as the dog got closer. Soon it became apparent that the dog was right outside of my truck barking at me. Either this dog is Lassie and is trying to alert me of something, or else he is just a pain in the ass and I will need to throw something at him to scare him off. It is important to note that the barking had been going on for a good 10 minutes at this point. So I sat up and looked out my window. Standing there, mere inches on the other side of the glass, was a man about 35 years old. He was a large fellow and was barking at me. His eyes were crazy and he was frothing at the mouth a little.
Wait, hold on.
So he thought this was a dog barking, but it was a grown man.
Oh.
Frothing at the mouth. The scene.
Plot twist.
Yeah, literally. The scene held my full attention for a moment. The sheer creepiness of this struck me. Gently and making a absolute minimum of sudden movements, I reached down and started my truck slowly and pulled away. He chased me, much like you would expect an angry dog to do, barking and all. Needless to say, it played hell with my power naps from then on.
Wow.
Creepy.
I would be so freaked out.
Right?
Like, what? Was this man possessed? Like, what was happening?
What was he on?
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. That would be so freaky.
Yeah. I don't know about the frothing at the mouth. That's like next level.
So startled. You're just coming out of a nap.
Yeah.
And you open your eyes.
It's the middle of the night, 3 a.m.
Oh my God. I hate that for him.
Yeah, poor guy. I hope he was able to take a nap.
I hope he's seeking help to recover from that.
Oh, I was talking about the man in the truck.
That's who I'm talking about. When I close my eyes, all I'm seeing and hearing, visualizing is this grown man
frothing.
Yes. Oh, man.
God. Okay. The next one. As I mentioned in my other post, I was a transportation broker of a number of years. One of those years, we obtained government contracts for the transfer of undisclosed hazardous materials. We were under restrictions to keep everything about these loads confidential, from the trucking companies to whom we brokered these loads to their specific locations. Every single day we had to give hourly updates to an internal agency about the status of our drivers. Each load required a team in order to minimize stopping time. These trucks had specific instructions to not stop for more than half an hour throughout the itinerary, nor to open the contents of the trailer. Their location was constantly monitored by a GPS coupled with a timer to ensure these conditions were met. We had many of these contracted loads without any notable issues. However, one day proved different. During this day, one of the truckers was stopped by a DOT officer. The officer demanded the drivers to open the trailer and reveal the unidentified contents. Our drivers cited our contract with our client, stating that we could not open the trailer under any circumstances. However, the DOT was persistent and broke the electronic seal himself. Our systems at dispatch were frozen immediately. To the officer's surprise, the trailer contained Tomahawk missiles used by the Department of Defense. Two helicopters were sent from the the nearest Air Force base, and the DOT officer was taken into custody later to be released.
Oh,
turns out the transportation of contents such as these are quite common since they are concealed in a dry van. However, the public is completely unsuspecting.
What?
That's crazy. Taking into custody?
Well, good.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's above the law, right? That's what we're told.
That's what we're told. That's what we're told.
Wild. But also, like, put that into perspective now, right? When you're driving, truly don't mess with an 18-wheeler. Like, just don't cut them off. You never know what's behind that.
Yeah. You don't know what they're carrying. You don't know how hazardous it could be.
Right.
Or, yeah.
Like, God forbid they get into an accident, you know, like, yeah, that's wild.
Crazy.
And also kind of shame on, like, I feel like maybe the police officer was teed up a little bit to fail. Like, are they aware?
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, were they trained or are they trained for these, like, I don't know. Like,
these confidential, like, loads, so they know, okay, this is the code word for it. They're good to go. Like, don't touch that.
Or, like, dispatching, or, like, reaching out to their dispatch to be like, hey, can you check? Or, I don't know.
Yeah.
You'd think.
Some type of checks. It's also crazy to think about cargo thefts. Imagine someone trying to steal that load.
No way.
And then it being like missiles.
Oh my gosh, that would be nuts.
Yeah, crazy.
Nuts. I bet it's happened.
I'm sure. It has to. Has to
have happened.
Yeah. This next one is from a broker. It says, I booked a load with a carrier for loading tomorrow. Could load reefer or vented van. Carrier said that they had vented van, which was no problem. Walked through all the details to a T. Emailed after they signed the rate confirmation, confirmed good, and even asked again if they had vented van. Carrier confirmed again, and they did. About 20 minutes later, they switched drivers on me, which was no big deal. Emailed asking if this driver still has a vented van or reefer, and they replied, vented van. I then called to ask if we could send tracking to the driver and asked again, and the guy was like, no, we have dry van, no vents. Shocker. Asked if he read the rate con clearly, stating the equipment needed was a vented van or reefer. Guy admitted he didn't read it all. ... Shocker.
Again?
Yeah, carrier was a solid carrier for us to run loads and everything for a couple of years. It just blows my mind how some of these guys are operating trucks. Like, just something as simple as reading the rate con that they signed. I don't see why some just don't read it. You'd be shocked to know, like, how many people just sign rather 100%. Without reading everything top to bottom.
And then you wonder why you have a claim or a massive fee. Shame. That's an early lesson that you learn. I feel like, at least working like for an asset-based company, like, you learn that very quickly.
Right.
And it's a very expensive mistake. Oftentimes, it's never just a small little fee.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. This last one. It's a truck driver story.
My favorite.
Yeah. The most crazy. There's so many things out on the road that you wouldn't even think of. And then you either hear about it or you, like, read it on Reddit and you're like, what?
Well, didn't they make like I swear there's a show or something, and I can't remember on what's it called? On what, like, channel or whatever, but where they document, like, drivers going through weather, like, specifically, like,
really?
I can't remember what areas, but like winter weather.
Or like Wyoming or something.
Like, and it's like intense.
Really?
They get stuck and, like, literally your worst nightmare. But I don't remember what region.
Interesting. I've never heard of that.
I swear I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, seriously.
It makes sense why they made it, right? Like, the things that drivers are seeing out on the road and experiencing.
Right. Like, you wouldn't think that they go through that unless you're in the industry.
Right.
It's crazy. Okay, this last story. My dad's a trucker. He always tells me about the late night delivery he made once in Chicago. It's probably around 11:30 p.m. and he pulls up to a red light. He's the only vehicle in sight. Out of nowhere, some guy knocks on his window. My dad cracks it a bit and asks him what he wants. You got change for a 20? Asks the guy. My dad's pretty suspicious at this point. He just says, nope, sorry, and rolls up his windows. But he's still stuck at the red light, and this guy's still just standing there on the side of his truck on the little step to get in, knocking and asking for change. Finally, the light turns green, and my dad starts to pull forward. The guy's still hanging there for a bit, but eventually he hops, or maybe falls, off. My dad steps on the gas, and it gets about a block away before he meets another red light. He looks out his mirror, and there's that same guy in a full-on sprint chasing behind him. So many chasers.
I know.
My dad looks around, sees no other cars, and pulls away through the red light before the guy gets to his truck again. According to my dad, the change for 20 thing is a pretty common ploy to get truckers to open up their trucks. Since they've got a lot of possessions in their cabs, they're a pretty good target for theft. Presumably, that's what was going on here.
Oh my gosh.
Chasing down the street.
At least he was you know, like aware, like
Yeah.
self-aware of like,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, you'd have to be like after I don't know how many years this guy was on the road, but
Mhm.
even I could only imagine even for like a month out on the road, you would pick up on certain things just from what I've heard drivers talk about.
Yeah,
But
so wild.
it's a lot of safety precautions that they I feel like not a lot of people put out a lot of resources for. It's more like learn as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And most oftentimes, like, they're not even really allowed. I mean, don't quote me on this. I'm not sure. But, like, they're really not allowed. I don't know if it's, like, a company policy or if it's, like, by law, but they can't have, like, weapons, like, in the cab with them, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that in itself, like, that's a disadvantage.
Right.
And that's scary to think about.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
gotta stay smart out there.
Yeah, and safe.
And
Smart and safe.
Yes, they go hand in hand. Yep. Wild.
That's it. That's all we had.
Nice.